If you're looking for a lightweight, sporty styled helmet, then the AGV K6S just might be what you're after. I've been spending a decent amount of time riding in this helmet to find out how it performs and what it's like to live with. So let's get straight into it. The K6S is an ECE 2206 updated version of the original K6, which I reviewed back in 2021. The changes to this helmet compared to the K6 were largely introduced to ensure that it met the new 2206 criteria, and AGV say that this actually exceeds it. Whilst we're on the subject of ratings, I also thought I'd take a quick look at the helmet's Sharp score. For those not familiar, Sharp is a UK government-backed test programme that rates helmets out of 5 stars. The K6S scored a full 5 stars, and interestingly it achieved the highest very good rating in every single category. Now, there has been a little bit of debate around the Sharp testing, and of course it is not the be-all and end-all, but it is nice to have some independent testing, and the results for this helmet were very impressive. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the construction and features before we get on to finding out how it performed out on the road. The shell is a carbon aramid construction. This size large, ready to ride, came in at 1,397 grams on my scales. That included the optional chin sock that comes in the box. That's only 58 grams heavier than the K6, which was 2205 certified. AGV have also amended their sizing structure. They used to offer medium small and medium large options, but those are now gone. Instead, you get sizes extra small through to extra large across 4 shell sizes, with the medium and large now having their own dedicated shells. That is really good to see, because it means that you're getting an appropriate shell size for your helmet size. Admittedly, the predominant sales numbers are for medium and large size helmets, so to see them getting their own shell is good. And this size large is a 59 to 60 centimeters, and that fits me exactly the same as the ML did in the old K6. The head shape is intermediate oval, and as a point of reference I would say that this fits in a very similar fashion to a Shoei helmet. In terms of features, the most noticeable visible update is the larger rear spoiler. And that's not just for looks, it's designed to help draw warm air out of the helmet through the venturis on the rear. Aside from that, AGV haven't really changed the styling that much. You've got 2 chin vents operated by a single switch and 3 vents across the top, again all simple open or closed positions. The visor gives a really wide 190-degree field of view, and it's Class 1 optically rated. It's also part of the safety system. At 4mm thick, it adds a level of impact protection. It's also very easy to remove. Lift the visor, pull down the tab, and it pops straight off. Nice and simple, and it's good to see a metal mechanism here rather than plastic. The downside to this visor is that because some of that mechanism is built into the visor, replacements are quite expensive. A clear visor is around £79, although currently about £64 at Sports Bike Shop. This particular visor is the optional Photochromic one, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video, but that's more expensive at £140, or again on discount at Sports Bike Shop for £108 at the moment. Inside, you've got a removable washable liner using AGV's Ripmo and Shalimar materials. And yes, I'm going to make that same joke again. But those 2 different levels of material mean you've got this element of slip and grip. So the helmet is easy to put on and take off, but it stays in place once it's on. You also get the removable chin sock in the box along with a breath guard. So that's the technical aspects covered. Let's talk about what it's actually like to live with. Starting with comfort, and here 2 things that really stand out. Firstly is the fit. The size large suits my head shape very well and offers a snug fit. The second point is the weight. You really notice straight away just how light this helmet is, especially on long all-day rides. It really does make a difference. Despite its weight, it doesn't feel unstable or prone to buffeting. Aerodynamically, it's very good. There is a slight difference between riding a naked bike and something with a screen, but not a huge one. And as always, that's going to be very much dependent on that rider-bike combination. Vision is excellent both in terms of field of view and clarity, even with the Pinlock 120 XLT fitted. One small thing to note is that this metal locking tab is visible in your peripheral vision when you're riding with the visor up. I didn't find it annoying, and I don't spend that much time riding with the visor up anyway, but it is something you'll notice at first and you'll need to get used to. The visor itself has two detent positions plus a cracked open position that gives a nice bit of airflow. When in this position or fully closed, it locks into place and you release it with a central button. This helmet is fitted with the optional Photochromic visor, which for me is pretty much essential because there is no drop-down sun shield. I'm not a fan of wearing sunglasses under a helmet with a visor, and also don't want to carry a spare visor around with me. So for me, this is a fit and forget option because it will adapt to any light conditions and you don't have to worry about it. There are quite a few myths about how these work, mainly around how slow they are to react, but in real world riding, I've never had an issue. It's not a simple on-off tint, it's constantly adjusting based on UV levels, and you don't really notice it happening. For me, I think it's worth the extra money. Ventilation is good. The chin vents bring in a decent amount of air, with some directed up to the visor. The top vents also work well, especially the centre one, and having three gives you a bit more control over the airflow. Now, noise is always a question that comes up, and as ever, there are a lot of variables, so the caveat is it depends on how well the helmet fits you, what bike you're riding, what jacket you're riding, how tall you are, all that sort of stuff. But with all that in mind, I found this to be a relatively quiet helmet. A lot of that comes down to the fit, and the chin sock definitely helps, and I also ride with custom moulded earplugs. One thing I did notice when riding this is when you open all of the vents, there isn't a significant uplift in noise, and that's not always the case with helmets. I also think it's a good looking helmet, but that's obviously subjective. Prices start at £379 for plain colours, going up to £459 for some of the top end graphics, and there are some really nice options out there. So in summary, it's a very lightweight helmet with great vision, good ventilation, a comfortable liner and solid build quality. And that build quality can be seen on the attention to detail in this helmet. We've got the metal mechanisms on the side here. The pin lock is adjusted by a metal screw on the outside of the visor, as opposed to one of those fiddly little plastic tabs. The locking pin here is affixed with a screw, so that can be replaced. And generally, just the quality of this helmet is really nice. No squeaks or creaks or rattles when you're riding. It's a nice thing. It might be classed as a sports helmet, but in reality it works across pretty much anything. I've used it on nakeds, sports tourers and even adventure bikes, and it's performed well across the board. I always try to balance these reviews with good points and bad points, but to be honest there aren't very many bad points that I can really pick up on this, and they tend to be quite small. I guess one of them will be that prong being in your vision if you ride with your visor up. That could annoy people enough that it would strike this from their list. The other thing, I suppose, is the cost of these replacement visors because of the mechanics that are built into it. And some people will always want to have a drop-down visor. Now, for me, the Photochromic visor takes care of that, but if you didn't want to spend the extra money for this, then obviously that lack of drop-down visor could be an issue. But that lack of drop-down visor obviously keeps the weight of this helmet down and helps it maintain that low profile look. So the choice is yours. If you have any questions about the helmet, then let me know in the comment section down below and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. And all that leaves me to say is, until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.